Hello and welcome to the Gersnet Podcast, the independent Rangers podcast made for fans, by fans, and where the content is absolutely free. I am your host, David Wren, and as always, we are live tonight, streaming on YouTube, where you can get in touch as we go using the comments section. The show is also available to download or stream after the live broadcast and is available on Acast, iTunes, YouTube, Castbox, Switcher, and Spotify. If you like what we're doing, please subscribe to the podcast and follow us on social media to stay up to date with everything that we are doing. It's been a positive week for the club. Progression in the Betfred Cup firstly on Wednesday, followed by a thumping victory over Aberdeen at the weekend at Ibrox. And joining me to dissect both matches is Iain Duff. How are you doing, Iain?
Good, thanks. Yep.
Positive week and weekend.
Certainly yesterday it was a enjoyable game, no doubt about that.
And also joining us tonight is Graham. How are you, Graham?
I'm absolutely fantastic. Thanks very much, David. Especially after a great start to the weekend yesterday.
Positive time to be a Rangers fan, anyway.
No, absolutely.
Looking at obviously yesterday, as you both mentioned, that's 4 clean sheets in a row, 5 wins in a row, 14 goals in 5 games. Iain, yesterday's game, obviously, to have such an emphatic win over Aberdeen, I think it worse than Derek McInnes's time at the club. How satisfying is it to get that victory, especially after what happened last season when we were beaten twice at Ibrox by Aberdeen?
Yeah, I think last season those games against Aberdeen were the amongst the lowest points really of the season, really. So it was important, that to show that we've progressed to completely turn it around this year, and I think yesterday really did that. It's as you say. You look at those stats since the international break. It's 14 goals scored, 1 conceded, 5 wins. That's pretty impressive stuff. So when you lay it out like that, you can look at individual games, I suppose, and analyse different aspects of it. But the bigger picture, certainly for the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks, has been very, very positive, and that just was icing in the cake yesterday.
Graham, as Iain mentioned there, it's obviously shows, I suppose, how far we've come from last season. But were you surprised with the manner of the victory, even in the Aberdeen had a few injuries and stuff like that, but were you surprised at how easy it was for Rangers?
If you think about it, we've more or less been scraping results in the last 2 or 3 domestic games. So it did come as a little bit of a surprise, but it wasn't like a complete shock. Rangers have been due to, as far as I'm concerned, Rangers have been due to give somebody a right good spanking, if you like. And against Aberdeen, everything just seemed to click properly. The way we were playing, our front three were outstanding, and our 2 holding midfielders and Davis and Jack were Davis allowed Jack to do a lot more than he's normally been allowed to do against the midfield. So yeah, I thought it was a case of it wasn't a shocking revelation to me that we were that good, but it was a bit of a surprise, yeah.
Iain, as Graham mentioned there, obviously Stephen Davis getting a great deal of praise. He seems to be really getting sharp now, because obviously when he came in at first, I think it was safe to say he didn't quite hit the ground running last season, and then towards the end of the season he really became quite important. And then I think yesterday's performance was probably his best since he came back to the club. Do you think there's a case to be made for him being the best signing in the summer, both for the fact I don't think we had to pay any money for him, and to get someone with that sort of experience in a deal like that?
Yeah, his experience is absolutely vital, because I think that was one of the things last season that stood out, was that we had games where we played really well but just couldn't manage the game and ended up either losing or drawing and dropped a whole load of points throughout the season in games like that. And we needed people with his kind of not just his ability, but his cleverness and the fact that his experience, he's been there, not just at the top level in England, but he's been there at Rangers, which is, I say this all the time, but it's a totally different kettle of fish. When you're, you can play at the top level in different leagues, but the demands of playing at Rangers specifically are quite unique, and he's been there and done that. I think it was quite similar when he signed the first time around. He was his first season, I think, when he was on loan. I might be wrong on that, but I think so. But he wasn't. I didn't think anyway outstanding, but as the time progressed, and he just settled into the role and became a major part of the team, and one of the most vital parts of the team, in fact. And that seems to be the way it's working now as well. And there's one point yesterday I remember Aberdeen had very few chances, but they had one where they towards the end of the game when they broke through. And he was there. He was the man who came back from midfield and cut off the attack and took the ball forward. Didn't just hoof it up the park, passed it on to someone, and created an attack for us. And that's got to be, that's where his strengths lie, just getting up and down the pitch and dominating the midfield.
Graham, do you think that, obviously Ryan Jack's come in for a lot of praise and some of the others, Arfield was fantastic for his last season. Do you think Davis has possibly slid under the radar a wee bit this season, and then yesterday's possibly the game that's properly shown, how vital he is in that engine room?
Well, Davis has improved game on game since he arrived back at Rangers. And what's great to see is that when Davis is playing well, everybody in front of him is also generally playing well. It's very rare that when Davis is playing like that, the folk that are in front of him are poor. And if they are poor, we've seen Steven Gerrard changing that and replacing someone. So yeah, it's not a surprise that Davis is probably, in my opinion, the best midfielder in the Scottish League at the moment.
I just want to ask Iain as well, when you look at the options that we've got in central midfield at the moment, who, in your opinion, would be the strongest three in there, for the bigger games, I suppose?
Well, God, I don't know. I suppose Jack and Davis are, probably the obvious ones, and then you sort of look at one other out of the rest of the team there. I mean, it depends, I guess, and I like Aribo. But whether he's the man to go in there in the bigger games, I don't know. Arfield in that position as well. I mean, he's potentially an option there as well. So I mean, I think the most important thing is that we've got options, and in the past we haven't had options. So without wanting to be sort of cliched about it, it's horses for courses. I guess it will depend the teams we're playing and the kind of demands that game will have as the kind of player we want. If we want three sort of defensive midfielders, almost, if you like, if that's what it suits like, or if we want somebody who's a bit more positive, and then we have to do it accordingly.
I thought, if you don't mind me interrupting you there, David, I would probably say that Scott Arfield had his best game yesterday. For Rangers in that position further back there. He's been playing just off a striker recently, and for me, he hasn't really been firing. And he's had quite a few chances and it's just not going in for him at the moment. But eventually that will come. I think Steven Gerrard had played him there a couple of games ago in a domestic game. I can't remember what one it was, and it didn't quite work. But then he didn't have Greg Stewart in front of him. And the inclusion of Greg Stewart was a surprise for me yesterday, but also how Arfield played in that deeper role, and how those front three players interacted with each other, and their movement was basically unstoppable. Aberdeen just could not live with it. They were chasing shadows for the majority of the game.
I do wonder, when you look at the makeup of the team yesterday, and obviously Morelos was dropping in, a bit more, and Stuart was sort of taking on the number 9 role at the game. I don't know if that will possibly be something that we'll now see in the team as well. This sort of playing Arfield a bit further back with Davis and Jack rotating, and then not playing Morelos a wee bit deeper. I think there was certainly a change of shape yesterday. Iain, do you think that's possibly something that Gerrard will look at doing, is introducing someone to play beyond Morelos?
I got the impression from what I heard Gerrard saying after the game yesterday was that Morelos was kind of doing that off his own back almost, so he, it wasn't part of any kind of strategy. He was just coming back deep and doing that. So I don't know. I can only see, I think Morelos is going to be the focal point of the attack, and the rest of the players will work around that. I suppose the key is that if Morelos starts dropping back deep, and then it's up to the other players to fill that gap and react to that as well. So whether it's set up that way or not is maybe not that important. It's more just how the game develops and how the players sort of fit into the way the match is developing. And if Morelos starts to wander and come back deeper and start making things happen further in the park, then like you say, whether it's Stuart or Ojo or Kent or whoever it is it's playing up there alongside them, then they have to sort of come in and fill the space in the number 9 position. But I mean, I thought Morelos was a bit doing similar against Livingston midweek as well, which wasn't a great performance overall, I suppose. But but he was probably the best player, I think, on the park, and he was doing similar as the game progressed. He was coming much further back and picking the ball up almost at the edge of the midfield area and starting to make things happen. So yeah, as long as the other players are alert to that, then that's great.
Yeah, looking at Greg Shure yesterday, Graham, he really made an impact on the team, and I think he showed sort of a glimpse of what he showed at Kilmarnock at the beginning of last season. I actually said in the last podcast I was on about Stuart and how I thought he could come in, and play the league games, especially after European ties. Is that something you think will happen going forward? Because he's obviously had a great game yesterday against one of the so-called better teams in the league. Do you think he can make that impact and show a similar consistency to his play in comparison to yesterday?
Well, I don't see why not. He might not make the European games, although in saying that, we're a little bit thin on the ground for the European games with a number of injuries. Kent, Jordan Jones, Joe Rebo. So, the shirt might actually be Greg Stewart's for the keeping for the moment. And definitely in the domestic games, especially with Alfredo playing the way that he's playing, that dropping deeper to pick up the ball. It doesn't matter whether it's centre, whether it's left or right, and then you've got Greg Stewart going beyond him. I mean, it was perfect yesterday. Everything was. It was a joy to watch. Actually, the football was magnificent.
I think a great example of Greg Stewart and his ability, I think, in yesterday's game was when he set up Arfield for that chance in the second half, and he sort of got the ball, he's back to goal, and then he swiveled and got away from the defender and set Arfield up. But he offers something completely different, I think, to anything else we've got, Iain, and I think domestically he could make an impact. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be perfectly honest. I didn't really know an awful lot about him before he signed. Hadn't really seen him playing very often at all, and I didn't really know what to expect from him. And what his appearances up until possibly yesterday were pretty, few and far between, and hadn't really had an opportunity to perhaps show what he can do. So I think it was a big game for him yesterday, and the fact that he took the chance and did impress is says a lot for him, because a lot of players, when they get that opportunity, when they've not had the chance, they don't take it, and that almost ends their chances in the future. So the fact that he stepped in, and he could quite easily have had a hat-trick yesterday. He had a shot that hit the post, and had one decent save from the keeper as well, I think. So I mean, he was definitely on fire, and had had things gone differently for him, he could have been walking away with easily walking away with the Man of the Match award. And that's what you ask. If a player's on the fringes and he gets the chance, then you want them to come in and take that chance. And it says a lot about his personality or his character or his ability or whatever you want to call it. That he came in and he did take the chance. So good on him, and I hope he gets more opportunities.
Graham, Iain touched on it a wee bit there, but obviously we've got players in the team this season, likes of Stewart and Barker, who are getting chances due to injuries and stuff like that. It's good now to see them come in and make the most of it, because perhaps that wasn't something that was happening last season.
Well, that's true. The way we've been playing with the three up front, or 4-4-3 or whatever variation of the 4-4-3 system that you're talking about. And I've noticed that when we play with two wide men who have got primarily using their speed, they don't have much space to move into. So you could look at it and say that it was a genius tactical move by Steven Gerrard. But then when you listen to Steven Gerrard's interview about it, he says, he never really had any intentions of playing in that fashion. It was just that Greg Stewart made it, an option that he couldn't refuse. He had to play him because of the way that he's been training. So, Greg Stewart's worked his way into that team, and the results were 5-0 against Aberdeen yesterday.
I suppose, Iain, just before we look at results elsewhere, how pleasing is it to get one over in Derek McInnes and Aberdeen? I think as a fan, especially now, because there's been a lot of ups and downs even in Gerrard's time at Rangers, so it's got to be satisfying to then get a result with that.
Well, it's always satisfying. To be honest, though, I think McInnes is somebody we should just sort of move on from now, really, to be honest. He's he had his opportunity. I wasn't in favour of him being the manager anyway, so I'm glad it worked out the way it did. And I think the subsequent sort of year or two or however long it's been now, a year I suppose it is, I've borne that out, really. I don't think he's really done all that much at all that would say we've missed out. So yeah, great, satisfying, but he's not that important really in the big scheme of things as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, beating Aberdeen's always good though. It's
well, the meltdown on social media has been pretty good as well. Since the game yesterday, it's been quite spectacular. Some of the stuff been going on with some of the Aberdeen fans, so that's been good to see. But yeah, Graham, obviously Celtic dropped points yesterday for the first time this season as well. So that takes us closer to them, a point in it now. Do you feel like it's getting back to where Rangers were before we went down the leagues, but making the most of that, if the door's left ajar, getting a big result to then go a bit closer? It feels a bit more like the old days where it is a bit cat and mouse.
Yeah, frequently last season, when Celtic had dropped points, we would also be dropping points. And yesterday was it looked like previous Rangers teams in the way that they would manage games, but it was much better. You could say that, but it was much, much better than that. We absolutely destroyed Aberdeen. They weren't in the game at all. They couldn't get a grip with a high press, couldn't get a grip with a mid press, low press was the same. We just played around them. And then we had some fantastic deliveries from either side, from James Tavernier and from Borna Barisic. We're looking more like the Rangers that we all know and love.
Iain, obviously, as I said, it's a point in it now, and to have come back so strongly after what was really, really disappointing result at Ibrox against Celtic. It feels like we're now getting back into sort of where we were the first few games of the season, and it's now becoming like a title race. And obviously it's only 7 games in, but we look strong in this moment.
Yeah, I think if you sort of sat at the start of the season and said, 7 games in, you're a point behind on similar goal difference. I think most people would have said, well, okay, that's not too bad. I think the nature of the game against Celtic is, disappointed people, obviously, and that's totally understandable. And that's kind of put us, I would say, still put some doubts in my mind about, what we're going to do. And I think, the big thing is going to be how we play in the next 2 Old Firm games specifically, or certainly the next 2 league games, if unless we go into the cup final against them as well. Winning, when Celtic drop points, we need to win. That's important, obviously, but at some point we're going to have to beat them as well to get beyond them, and that's going to be the test. But I think I'm hoping that the last game against them was a one-off, and that it was something that the manager and the players have learned from, and it'll not go into the next game in the same frame of mind, hopefully, and will be far more positive. But I think overall you would say a point behind at this stage is probably fair enough. You'd be quite happy with that. Just that one game has been the main negative in the whole season, really.
Just to touch on something you said there, Iain, when you look at the Old Firm games, and obviously the last one wasn't so good, and obviously I'm looking a bit further into the future now, but do you think there's still possibly a mental thing with the team and maybe even the fans over going to Parkhead and getting results? Because obviously we've not won there for a long time, and well, can you see us going there, Christmas time and beating Celtic? Is that something you can see?
I don't see. I mean, I honestly think it shouldn't be something that the players should be scared of. In the context of Scotland, Celtic are a good team, but so are Rangers, and there's no reason why they shouldn't go there and get a result. But it's all about the frame of mind they go into, and I suppose a lot of that will depend on where things are in the run up to the game, because if we're on a roll, if Celtic have dropped any points, all that sort of thing will have an impact. But at the end of the day, absolutely go into that game in a positive frame of mind, and there's no reason why we can't win it. They've got the ability. Players have got the ability. They know that. Absolutely tanked Celtic last season. It's certainly towards the end of the season in the game at Ibrox. So there's no reason why that can't happen at Celtic Park as well. I mean, it's
I think we might have been a little bit too confident going into that game at Ibrox, to be honest with you.
Well, I feel a little bit like that as well. I think everyone was sort of getting into that, and feeling. I think that game has actually maybe in some ways helped, because it's maybe been a bit of a reality check, and maybe we're not as far ahead.
You've still got to win the game. We've got to play it and win the game.
Yeah.
What are your views on that, Graham, in terms of the going to Parkhead? Do you think there's still a mental thing, or are you confident that this season can be the season that we win there and make our mark, I suppose? Yeah,
every time we play them, I'm confident that we can beat them. But at the same time, it's still a firm match, and it can go in any direction. It doesn't matter who the former team is. But every time I play, every team we play, I'm confident that we can win. And to be honest with you, I think we're due a big result over there at Parkhead. The last couple of times that we played there, we certainly didn't disgrace ourselves, especially after the Ufa game. I mean, that was a narrow victory for them. And then in the follow-up game, we were down to 10 men, and we were a far better team in that second half. If it wasn't for some dubious behaviour on the park by their players, it might have been a very, very different result.
When you look at, I mean, obviously there's still a lot of chat in the media and stuff like that we're miles behind them. But when you look at the league last season, we lost it by 9 points, and 3 of those points were lost in the last game of the season when there's really nothing to play for, and Kilmarnock had everything to play for. Do you think that's forgotten by a lot of people, that was quite as close last season considering the amount of points we dropped.
Yeah, absolutely. We dropped our points that were should have been wins were turned to draws. We lost a lot of points in draws, and that's where we actually lost the league, probably before the New Year game. It didn't help that we didn't start after the winter break as well as we could have. And Celtic were fairly what's the word I'm looking for? Maintained a decent run of form in the final straight there. However, our downfall was the amount of draws that we had last year. And we don't seem to be either losing or drawing those games at the moment. After we've played each other twice, we'll have a better reflection, I think, of where we are in terms of, is it possible for us to win the league this year?
I mean, you're absolutely right in terms of the draws and games that we lost last season. You look at the games that even right at the start of the season, Aberdeen and Hibs, I think, which both games that were way ahead in terms of possession and chances and shots at goal and all the rest of it, and then just blew it. And that's that's 4 points dropped. Possibly more. I can't remember the results, but so that's points that could have narrowed the gap quite considerably at the end of the season. And when the gap's closer as well, then the pressure's on and the games pan out differently. So if we can keep battling away and winning the games, even when not winning in style, but not playing particularly well, but still getting the results, then when it comes to the derbies, when they're more when the teams are closer together or when there's more pressure on, then that's when results go differently. It's much easier when you're a few points ahead to go into a game with a bit more confidence. But if you're got someone right on your heels or you're actually behind them, then pans out completely differently. We've seen Celtic in the past under Lennon and other managers sort of implode on themselves a wee bit when the pressure's on. So it'll be interesting to see how Lennon's team reacts under pressure, and if we can keep winning games that we weren't winning last season and keep it close or even get ahead of them at some point, then I'd like to see how they react under serious pressure that they haven't really had at all for the last 8 years. So so let's hope that continues.
I think it's important to remember as well. This time last season we'd drawn a couple of games, we'd lost to Celtic. This season, out of 7 games, we've won 6. And we've won a few there that have been possibly games we would have dropped points last season, and we're just finding ways to win. So it's looking positive at the moment in the league. And obviously, just to touch on Wednesday night to get through to the semi-finals and get Hearts in those semi-finals in the League Cup. Iain, it's obviously a great chance for us now to hopefully go on and have a chance at silverware. How did you see the game on Wednesday night?
And it wasn't pretty, was it? I mean, it was, didn't particularly enjoy the game. The second half at times was hide behind the sofa time, and that's the only time actually this season that I've thought that we've looked quite fragile, especially at the back, and a little bit vulnerable looking. I think most of the time we've looked pretty solid, and just for some reason or another, that game it sort of just looked a little bit iffy at the back. Having said that, it was still a clean sheet and didn't concede any goals. There was difficult circumstances. I suppose a cup game is difficult as well because Livingston had nothing to lose, so they just went for it. But it wasn't enjoyable, I have to say. But it was a win, and that's the most important thing when you're in, especially in a cup competition, just getting into the next round. And hopefully it was a one-off in terms of the poor, particularly midfield and defence. I thought it just looked a bit shaky the whole time. That we haven't seen that so much this season at all.
Graham, just to touch on a few incidents from the game as well. Obviously, Joe Rebo came away with 20 stitches. There was the Lyndon Dykes challenge on Goldson, and then obviously there seemed to be a rush to get Hollander sent off as well for the tangle with Lyndon Dykes, which, to be fair, I thought was a foul on Hollander myself. What did you make of some of the challenges and some of the decisions that went forward against Rangers on Wednesday night?
The Hollander incident that you're talking about, I'm in agreement with you. I think it was a foul on Hollander, but I've heard a lot of people talking and saying, that it's a possible red card for Hollander. And the way Scottish football is played, especially at that kind of level, that's the sort of result. That's the sort of decision that a referee would make, and I think that's a real problem for Scottish football. We've got this overemphasis on physicality, and when you look at the challenge that is it Lamy, you call him, makes on Joe Aribo, he's already taken Alfredo Morelos out. Alfredo's managed to cover his head and ride that challenge, but then he makes it straight away. As soon as he lands, he's making another challenge on Joe Aribo, and he absolutely smashes Joe Aribo in the face. Now, you've got to remember, Joe Aribo's just a young guy, and we had a similar incident happen with Motherwell in the same competition. I'm sure it's the same competition where the player smashed Fabio Cardoso's face. So that's two young players we've had on the park who have had their faces rearranged, essentially. And the referee, I'm looking at Don Robertson, I'm saying, what exactly is it you're seeing here, Don? Because this player's made two challenges, both with his elbows, and you haven't even given a foul. In any other league in the world, that's a red card. Or in any other competition in the world, those are red cards. Both challenges. The first one on Alfredo, and then the second one on Joe Aribo. But no, that game's allowed to play on as if nothing's happened. Yet today, watching Sports Scene, I don't generally watch Sports Scene, but coming on the pod, I decided, I'll watch this Sports Scene and see what they've got to say. The fourth official draws the game back for a foul on, I think it's James Forrest, Hibs at Celtic, when Hibs are breaking. And I'm thinking to myself, Kevin Clancy's looking at that and thinks that there's nothing in that, so he's going to play it on. But the fourth official's decided to get himself involved in the game, which it's the right call because it was a foul. However, that doesn't happen against Livingston during the week. And I'm thinking, what's the difference here? What is it that these people on the park who are supposed to be officiating these games are seeing? Are they seeing nothing? Or are they actually seeing the damage that's being caused to young men? So if you want to talk about that game, you have to talk about what Livingston's got. Livingston are a hard, strong, well-organised team, and they'd like to throw themselves about a bit. And to be fair, when you're watching it, to me, it's just charging all over the park and getting in front of a player when he's about to control a ball, in much the same way as we've seen Henrik Larsson put his foot on top of the ball and win a penalty at Hampden against us. There's nothing to constitute that he's got the ball under control, and it's not a foul either. So we need to do this. I think our officials need to tidy up our game a little bit. And I don't mind a meaty challenge. A meaty challenge is fine. However, when you're infringing and breaking the rules of the game and endangering other players, then referees need to take control of that.
I think it sums up quite a lot. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you go.
I think it sums up quite a lot about the mentality of Scottish football in general. Is that huge amount of talking about the incident involving Hollander and whether he should have been sent off, which was a nothing incident really. One of these things that happens all the time, and virtually nothing about an incident where somebody suffers an injury that results in them needing 20 stitches and is going to be out for several weeks. And the priorities here seem to be all out. Whether that Livingston player went in there deliberately to cause injury or not, if he was just reckless, whatever he did, he caused that injury because of the way he went into that challenge. And you can't say that that's just a part of the way football is played, because people shouldn't be coming out with head injuries that result in blood pouring from a head wound in any sense. So we have these big debates about whether the Rangers players should have been sent off for that challenge, and barely anyone talking about the out of control incident that resulted in somebody suffering severe injury. And it just, to me, is typical of the way that Scottish football looks at these things. And it's just until we can move on from that sort of tolerance of violence. Basically, you know, we're not going to progress as a country in terms of football, and you know, more importantly, it's not going to help young players develop. And you know,
absolutely. And there was another one on Alfredo Morelos by is it McGinn you call him? Now McGinn on Saturday. He's completely over the top of the ball. He's taking Alfredo out ankle height, which is an exceptionally dangerous challenge. He's out of control, and nothing said or done about it. Then that's the way Mr. Madden likes to play the game. Apparently, when it's Rangers, it's playing.
Do you not think? I mean, I don't want to go down too much this road, but when you watch these games, and I think personally, I think this has been the case for a few years now, where teams play us, they try to bully us and are sometimes quite successful. And even when you look at the game Wednesday night, there's been a couple of meaty challenges. Do you not think there comes a time, and I know I completely get what you're saying, I agree in the sense that these sort of things need to be stamped out, but should our senior players not be stepping up and not giving a bit back in the sense of an elbow to the head, but is there not a way that our players can then just stand up for themselves a bit more? Because I feel like sometimes we're getting bullied by these hammer throws in games when you're 1-0 like Wednesday night and you're being bullied like that, and then it slowly just ebbs away in the game, and then as you saw at the end, we were under real pressure. Iain, does there not come a time where some of the senior players have got to step up and just stand up for their teammates a wee bit in these situations?
Well, I mean, I don't really know what you can. I know what you're saying, but you know, what do you do? I mean, you can't go in and deliver like with light, you know, and you can't go back in and throw elbows around or go in the over the top challenges, because you know fine well that
it's going to result in a red card.
They're going to get exactly. They're going to get a red card for it. So you know that has been happening, and so I'm not quite sure exactly. I mean, I know, you know, yeah, they need to stand up to these players and confront them, but you know, if they're breaking the rules of the game, the only way to combat that, I suppose, is to break the rules of the game, and you know, then you're taking the chance that you're going to end up with 10 men or 9 men on the park. You know, I suppose. I don't know. I mean, you know,
yeah.
I think in the past,
if Livingston play against the Celtic, I think it's the next match. If Livingston play against Celtic in the same way that they played against us in midweek, that game will probably have to be stopped because there'll be so many players red carded and sent off.
I know what you mean, but I feel that we've become an easy target in these games. I think these sorts of teams, your Motherwells and your Livingstons, do target us in that way more so than they would the other teams. That's sort of what I'm getting at. And by biting back, I suppose I mean more. If there's a 50-50,
I don't think they do though,
David.
I don't think they do though, David. I think the level of I think it's the same in every match. I mean, I was watching, as I said, I watch Sports Scene. I generally don't watch Sports Scene, but there were tackles like that in every single game.
Do you think it's a wider issue in Scottish football then?
Yeah, there's a severe problem with Scottish football. The officials are not able to control those games, and they're supposed to be there to keep players on the park and to protect other players, but they're not doing their job. It's as simple as that. Because they're poor, not because they're corrupt. Like a lot of Rangers fans and a lot of people in Scotland seem to think that referees are corrupt. They're just not good enough.
It's worrying from a Scottish football point of view because they're very well paid as well, but they're not full time either. So it's a wider issue, probably for another day. But I think the officials clearly need to be looked at, because I think you're getting so many contentious decisions, and it's been going on for so long. And like, if Scotland have a bad result, you know that the press will move on to the next refereeing issue the following week. It's that sort of thing. And if Rangers or Celtic have a bad result, there's always one bad refereeing decision around the corner to take the pressure off whoever the pressure's on that week. And that's worrying that it's so common, that it comes so often. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know what you can do about the officiating, because it's. I mean, how many, Graham, for instance, how many referees can you pick from our current top flight that you think are decent?
I think my silence speaks volumes. Actually, I don't think there's any. I mean, Aberdeen are struggling at the moment with injuries and stuff, right? The fact, okay, that you get injuries like Ryan Kent's, where he's pulled up a hamstring because he's a pace player, and his explosive pace can cause those hamstring tears. So you sometimes get that. You get the one or two of them throughout the season. But the vast majority of teams, including Hearts are, scraping the bottom of the barrel at the moment with their team, with so many impact injuries and injuries from tackles and whatnot, that when we play them in the next game, they'll be lucky if they can field, 5 of their first team normal first team players. Aberdeen yesterday had 2 or 3 players out due to injury. And various other teams throughout the league are having similar problems. So, it's not just Rangers that are experiencing these horrendous tackles and over the top of the ball and clattering people's faces and stuff. It's the whole league.
And what I would say is, I think, referees have a really difficult job overall across the world. Every referee, I would never be a referee. Just, there's so much going on that you're always going to be at risk of missing something. Sometimes they miss really obvious things, and that's where they need to be, pulled up about it. But surely the responsibility here to stop all this is not necessarily with the referees. It's with the managers and the coaches and the players to start playing the game the way it's supposed to be played, not going over the top and tackles, throwing themselves about, leading elbows and all the rest of it. The responsibility is with the players, and the same applies when it comes to things like diving and all the rest of it. Referees always get the blame when they give a penalty for someone diving. Well, sometimes it's obvious, but quite a lot of the time it's not obvious, and it's just because the player has been clever enough, if that's what you want to call it, to con the referee. And I'll defend them to some extent, because I think the job that they have to do is almost impossible when players break the rules all the time. And in Scotland we seem to have a particular problem with players going wildly over the top with challenges, and maybe the rules should be tightened in terms of how tackles are dealt with. But until the players start behaving themselves, then there's these things are always going to happen, no matter whether players get sent off or not. So
another classic example of it, Iain, was on Saturday when Greg Stewart was moving in for basically our second penalty. I mean, if he doesn't get taken down in a rugby tackle like that, then there's a good chance that he's scoring that.
Yeah.
However, the issue is that the double jeopardy rule seems to be, in that case, misinterpreted, because that player has no intentions of going for the ball. If he makes an honest challenge for the ball and he takes the player out, then no, he doesn't get booked. The penalty is enough. But he's not making a challenge for the ball. He's taking the player out, and that's a red card.
Yeah, I don't understand that. That's a case where the referee has obviously, to my mind, made a mistake. That there's a clear goal scoring opportunity, and he's made no attempt to win the ball. And if he thinks it's a foul, then clearly he should go off. That's straightforward to me. And that is a case where the referee, has made the wrong decision. But yeah,
I think we'll move on, because we could have a 2-hour special on referees probably. So to look ahead to Thursday night's meeting with Young Boys and second Europa League group stage game, Iain, they are obviously second in the Swiss Super League at the moment, behind Basel, 5 games unbeaten, and they're yet to lose in the league. They lost their first game against Porto in the group stages 2-1. How are you feeling about the upcoming game?
Well, it's going to be a difficult game, I think. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think over the last couple of seasons, Rangers have shown that they can go to other difficult venues and put up a performance. It's a question, I suppose, of not just putting a performance on, but actually getting through and managing the game enough and getting the result at some point. I think a draw would be a good result this week. If we can win our home games and take a couple of points on the road, then I think that would definitely be our best bet in this group, because it is a difficult group. That said, we've got players that can score goals, so if we can keep it tight in defence and keep the head and not just have the sort of funny 5 minutes that we seem to have in just about every European game, if we can just sort of get through that, keep it tight, and everyone's up for the battle in midfield, then I could easily see us grabbing a goal. As I say, a draw would be good. A win would be fantastic. It will be difficult because they're obviously a good team.
Graham, where do we need to improve this season? Obviously, last season we dropped a few points, especially from a winning position in Moscow, and then disappointing performance in Vienna. Where do we need to improve away from home in the group stages anyway this season?
I think we need to improve our game management. We need to be a lot smarter. I think we've got the right man in the middle of the park at the moment, and Stephen Davis, who could possibly be the key to that. However, I wanted to talk about Bern. I mean, Bern are one of those teams that consistently does well and probably punches above their weight in European tournaments, and have done for a number of years. And as you rightly say, they're 5 games unbeaten. However, it's 3 draws sandwiched between 2 wins. They won the last game and they won the 5th last game. They won the last game 3-2. What was it you call the top of the league? I can't remember the name of the top of the league now. They're on Basel. Yeah, they're on a better run of form. They're on 2. They're on the last 5 games. They've only drawn 1. They've won every other one, home and away. So I mean, I don't know. I don't think Bern travel very well. But then again, they also play on a plastic surface at home, which means that the other teams who have not played on that plastic surface, and albeit a new plastic surface this year, might find it quite difficult with the bounce of the ball and the way the ball moves. According to the blogger, is it Power you call the guy? He says that the surface is running a lot better than previous surfaces. However, it's still a plastic surface, and Bern in European tournaments tend to play a lot better than you would expect. So we have to be on our game, and we have to manage that game really well. And yes, we do have players who can score. But if we do score, we need to protect that.
I'll come to you both on this one. But Iain, first, who would you start on Thursday to give us the best chance? Obviously, bearing in mind it's an away game in the Europa League, and it might take a different setup to how we'd play at home. But what would you sort of go for on Thursday?
Well, I mean, certainly defence. I think that's going to be the key position. And Helander was great against Feyenoord. Didn't have as good a game against Livingston the other night. I personally would prefer the Goldson-Katic partnership in the middle of defence, just because they've played more together more often. But I think either of those partnerships would probably be fine. And then you're looking at the same fullbacks. Perisic is in the few weeks since the last time I was on the pod, he's really come on leaps and bounds and is far more consistent than he had been previously, and looks a lot stronger defensively than he had been previously. Tavernier was back to being closer to his best yesterday, I think. So and there's no question of him not starting anyway. I suppose the midfield is going to be the question, and you look at the lineup yesterday and think, well, that looked pretty strong to me. I mean, I would be inclined to say, go with that and let our fast guys on the left, so Ojo and maybe Barker on the other side to try and stretch them if we get the chance to. And I would definitely start with Morelos in the middle, because he's capable of producing something a bit special, but also will really run their defence ragged and have them worried the whole time. So I think it's all about being strong, but also taking the chances when we can.
Graham?
I mean, I was on here about a month ago, and Ross posed the question to me: is there any way back for Borna Barisic? And I thought at the time, I don't think Borna Barisic has done anything wrong. In terms of his skill, he's far superior to John Flanagan and Andy Halliday. And to be honest with you, he's become a lot more physical, and all it's taken for the Rangers fans to get properly on his side is one or two meteor tackles, not your kind of 50-50s and stuff, and the Rangers fans are right on him. And then as soon as you can see, that he's doing that well, then we've got every chance of opening up any team on the left-hand side as well as the right-hand side. And of course, you've got Alfredo in the middle, who's now added dropping deep, left or right or centre into his game. I think it'll be a difficult game for Bern as well. But I think that Greg Stewart, it might be a game too far for Greg at the moment. And he might play Scott Arfield in there in that position, and go with Steve Davis and Ryan Jack in there, and possibly somebody else to beef it up a bit. I don't know, he might play George, which was interesting. He played him, towards the end of the game on Saturday. I'm talking about George Edmondson. He might play him as like a holding midfielder, and go with Katic and Goldson, and of course Barisic, Tav and McGregor. We really do have to manage this game well. It's all about how we use the ball when we've got it and how long we keep it. And I'm sure that the Bern midfield doesn't like you pressing high on them. So if we can get in around them and close off their space to move the ball around, then there's a good chance we could come away from there with a result. Whether that's a win or whether it's a draw, we'll have to wait till Thursday, unfortunately, to see.
I'm quite keen to ask you about this as well, Iain. I'm struggling with Ojo a wee bit. I'm finding him quite frustrating to watch, and I like him going forward. I think he's obviously pacey and scored a great goal against Feyenoord, but I do worry about him in these big European games. Just his work rate getting back, because especially the first sort of 20 minutes against Feyenoord, Barisic was left wide open with two men on him quite consistently, because Ojo wasn't tracking quite as well as he could have. Is that a concern for you, that he could cost us, especially in these games where we may have to defend a lot more than we would at home?
Well, I mean, I suppose that's down to the manager to drum it into him that that's what he needs to do. I mean, I don't think there's any reason why he shouldn't be able to do it. As long as he understands that's what his role is. And I don't know, what he'd been asked to do in that Feyenoord game. Maybe, because we were at home, maybe it's a different approach that would be taken. But yeah, I think he is a frustrating player because he's young and he's not got the experience and he's not played at that level at all before. So this is all new to him, and yeah, maybe he needs to be managed better in terms of how he plays the games. But I think he has the ability to do something a wee bit different. When it gets into the opposition's half, and especially in a game where Rangers are going to be probably under more pressure than they might be in a home game or in a domestic game, having an outlet like that with his pace, and there was a couple of occasions in recent games where he's shown amazing pace to get the ball, and perhaps he could have done better in the end. But he certainly has the ability to cause other teams trouble. So, you're probably right. He probably needs to give a bit more support to the defence. But that's down to the manager to get it into his head that he's got to do that. And at the moment, I'm not really sure what alternative we would have to play him anyway at this stage because of the injury situation. So it might be that he'll have to step up to the plate a bit and do that.
I mean, Iain, I want to pick up on something you said there. The key to that guy is he's a kid. He's just a young player, and he's going to be inconsistent. His positioning in the park sometimes there's a lot to be desired. But as far as I'm concerned, he's improved vastly since he's come in.
Yeah.
When he first came in, the first couple of games, I seen him. I thought, okay, this boy he's got great feet and he's got great pace. But the end result is he's running into players. So we've seen the same issue with Ryan Kent at the beginning of the last season when he started with us. His end product didn't come till a good few games in. But even at that, Ryan Kent didn't have the greatest end product. He was just an exciting player to watch. And I think that Ojo's one of those players. He can really unlock a game when he's in the mood for it. But he tends to look a little bit languid and a little bit lazy at times and doesn't track. And I think that's because of his positioning. He sees himself 30 yards off the game, and he resigns himself to, I can't get there. Well, it doesn't matter if you can't get there. Get close. If you get close, then you can cut off some other ball to another player. I think that's what needs to be worked on in that laddie's game. But other than that, he has all the tools to unlock defences with some outrageous skill.
I think what problem guys coming into Scotland playing for Rangers have is that they don't get the same. You don't get the same sort of space to play when you play for Rangers against most of the opposition that we play against, because of the way they play. So the way they're set up, you don't have that space to run into. So if your game's based on speed or breaking away, then you have to come up with something different. And I think it takes a while for these guys to understand that. And if they've got the brains and to go with the talent, then they will do that. And I think Kent, as the season progressed, he did understand that and became a better player for it. And hopefully Ojo will as well. But the European games actually are probably a better environment for them, because the opposition are more likely to be attacking and more likely to give you space, and you're more likely to be able to use those basic talents that you've got already. So, for a guy like Ojo, a European run is probably a great thing, and I think it worked for Kent last season. He flourished in the European games, I think, and Ojo could as well if he sort of uses his skills that he has already, and then develops his other skills in the domestic games as the season progresses.
The chat is coming up with Ojo on the last 70 minutes in general, which is a fair comment, and you would expect that from a young player, to be honest with you. I think once he's going to take games to get his stamina levels up there, especially with the expectation, the psychological expectations of a young player in a game like that. And as you say, when he plays in Europe, he's got a lot more space to move into, because they're more interested in a slower build-up and a slower way to play the game, more tactical, more technical. Whereas when he's playing against teams in the SPL, he's closed down really quickly. But he's still done okay for us in the SPL.
Iain, a score prediction for Thursday?
I'm going to say 1-0.
2-1 Rangers.
I think 2-1 Rangers as well.
Well, I hope I'm wrong.
But that's pretty much all of time for tonight. So thanks to Iain, Graham, for joining me tonight. And as I said at the start of the show, you can download or stream after the live broadcast on Acast, iTunes, YouTube, Castbox, Switcher and Spotify. And please go on and like us on social media and follow us on Twitter. You'll get all the updates on what we're doing there. And thanks for listening. Good night.